Excellent. I'm gonna check. All right. So Beyonce, can you screen share?
Sir, at the moment I cannot
All right.
the link.
Okay. Let me give you the link. Let me give you the link. Talia, can you screen share?
I can try. I'm not sure how to on the phone.
Oh, you're using a phone. Okay. All right. Let's try with Sanai. Sanaya. Can you screen share?
Yes, I can, sir.
Thank you so much. She came through. Thank you. All right. Let me give you the link again if you don't have it.
And it's Sunny.
Sane. I got it. Sane. Won't forget it. Sane. All right. Here's the link. Thank you. I appreciate it, Sane. Appreciate it. All right. Excellent. All right. Let me know when you're ready so I can just start recording.
Yes, sir.
All right. Welcome, guys. Let's get back. We're discussing the roles, traditional roles of the family members, right? And we discussed that, for example, the grandparent had these roles, which you can go through back in your virtual notebook. Parents' roles were such and such, and the children roles were this. Now, what we're going to do, because we just answered question 1 and question 2, so we can mark them as complete. All right, there we go. We're going to quickly move on now to the next topic. So let me just go here. There you go. One moment, let me just organize this. All right, there we go. Excellent. So head up for me. The next topic is... Excellent. All right. Next topic we're going to discuss is the consequences of not fulfilling these roles. Right? So if, for example, the grandparent, due to some unforeseen reasons, cannot help mentor the parent as well as the child, right? There are some consequences. And we see this every day, right? Because majority of us do have a little broken family issues, right? So in this case, if one person fails to fulfill their responsibility, this causes the entire family to suffer. It may mean that someone else takes responsibility for a role that is not rightfully theirs. And I gave you an example earlier. So let me write that for you quickly. If someone, let's write consequences. Consequences of not fulfilling roles. Okay, excellent. Now, can you remember what the example I said earlier was, where I talked about if the father is not in the home, what happens to the sibling, the older sibling?
The older sibling takes on the role of the breadwinner, or what would I say, or would like go into that spot where the father was there.
Exactly. So the older sibling take on a role that should have been filled by the father, i.e., in some cases, the breadwinner, right, man of the house, are making decisions. Right. It's a very sad reality, right? So, but oftentimes it's not a case where there's a hero in the story where, oh, it's the older sibling is the hero, the father is the villain. Majority of the time, it's a case where it's a misunderstanding because the father could have died, unfortunately, right? And his child still has to assume that responsibility. And through this scenario, oftentimes we realize that it's not a perfect situation where the child just says, okay, yes, I'll take on this added responsibility that is not mine. Majority of the time, it leads to anger, jealousy, resentment in the family. So it is not often recognized to be an easy transition. There can be cases of resentment and jealousy seen. Okay. Now we have one more case study to go through. All right. Now you guys enjoy the case study. All right. This one says you're gonna talk about your roles that you discussed earlier in activity 1 and honestly assess if you've been fulfilling them or not. All right. So we're gonna say write on the subject. So this is activity 3. Activity 3. Write on the subject, have I been fulfilling my responsibilities in my various roles, and aim for 250 words. All right. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just label this as activity. All right. Hashtag activity. Let's label this as activity as well. Hashtag activity. So when you're studying now and you want to find exactly, well, what are those activities that Sarah was mentioning? You just go to the top right and you just query the search by activity. And there you go. Right? Well, I know you can't see my screen, but essentially you'll see in the video. So let's go to this timestamp in the video to find all the activities. So let's go back. Let's remove that search query. All right, let's go back. Okay, good. Excellent. So that was the consequences of not fulfilling your rules. And then you have an activity based on this topic of have you been fulfilling your rules? Honestly, assess it. Sounds good? I heard a lot of yes, sirs. Okay, good. All right, there you go. So we've gone through so far 4 main topics. I'm going to put a little pause quickly just to refresh your mind and to see if you're understanding. All right, let's cover everything up. Okay. So we've discussed specific roles of family members. Let's add this in the middle. Excellent. So we've discussed so far 5 things, right? Here's number of the list. Well, 7 main things. There we go. All right, 6. There we go. So we've discussed the functions of the family. What are the 5 functions, roles and relationships, traditional roles and responsibilities, specific roles, and the consequences of not fulfilling those roles? Any questions? Right? I'm going to put a slider at the end of each, and it's going to tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, how competent do you feel you are? So I can just go over it, if anything, when we're revising. All right, there we go.
Okay, sir.
All right. So don't worry, I won't just continue without knowing if you guys are understanding. Wait, 1 sec. Family. All right, there we go. Slider. Why is it not adding it there? All right, there we go. Slider. You know what? I'm going to skip that one. All right, so on a scale of 1 to 10, just assess how well you feel like you're doing, and if I should just go over the topic, okay? All right. So I'll be looking out to see if I won, so I can just go over it. All right, so go to the next topic. Conflict. All right? So we're moving away from families now. So this was family. So we can really put all of this on the family, and that's it. So that was function of the family. So now, there we go. Oh, I see someone editing. Nice. There we go. All right. So we have people that can type. Great. All right. So now we're going into conflict. Did someone just delete it? Come on, don't delete it, guys. Don't delete it. Conflicts. Don't delete it, please. Please don't delete it. Conflict. All right. I'm serious. Don't delete it, please. All right. I can just lock the page without you guys seeing it. So if you keep deleting what I'm writing, I lock the page. All right. Conflict. All right. All right, excellent. Thank you for not deleting it. So what we're going to talk about specifically when we talk about conflict, right? We're looking at how you deal with it in families. So the first thing we need to discuss is conflict resolution and mediation. Conflict resolution and mediation to solve. All right? And mediation. Excellent. There we go. All right. What does it mean to resolve a problem? Anyone?
It means to find a conclusion.
Right. So a conclusion from a conflict. So in this case, when we find a resolvement for a conflict, it's basically using negotiation skills and defining what the problems are and how you can go about to find a solution. So we're going to say simply, a conflict is really that can be resolved is defined as a serious disagreement. Let's highlight serious disagreement, right, between two or more people all right. So what I want to ask you, because you're speaking to someone and you disagree with them, why isn't that called a conflict? So if I'm speaking to you and you have a different view, why wouldn't we call that a conflict? Anyone? Think about it. What's the definition? A conflict is defined as a serious disagreement, right? So if we're just having a conversation and you oppose my view, that isn't a serious disagreement. Understand? So that's the difference. Conflict is when that disagreement or you opposing my view turns to the worst, where it might be physical, it might be verbal, right? So when that argument leads to verbal or physical, so when an argument leads to a verbal or physical potential, so it can boil to a fight, right? Negotiation skills need to be employed, right? And we'll be going through a negotiation skills. Anyone ever watch an action movie where there's a bomber and someone calls them on the telephone when they're in the bank and say, "Don't do it"? All right? Think about your family and your children. Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Right. I know you know that I get to. Right. So for example, Die Hard. John, I don't remember his name. Bruce Willis, I think, was trying to mediate a conflict where there's a bomber, I think, right? Trying to tell him, hey, don't take the bomb. There's so many children in there, right? So they were having a disagreement and he employed negotiation skills to solve the problem, right? So we say the use of a mediator can solve a conflict. In this case, Bruce Willis from Die Hard. And I'm going to go for a diagram just to make you associatively learn. Every time you see Bruce Willis, you think of mediation. Every time you think of mediation, you think of conflict, which is a topic in social studies from Die Hard. Let me go for a diagram. One moment. All right. Die Hard movie wallpaper. All right. There we go. All right. Okay. So here's a picture. So anytime you see this picture, think of mediating a problem. Excellent. Let's put it in the center. All right, there we go. Everybody understands?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, the next thing about it, though, because, yeah, we know that he solved the problem, but what was exactly the steps to that conflict resolution, right? So we can say, for example, that the steps that led to the problem being solved is noted as conflict resolution. Yep. And what I always wanted to do, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the objective for this chapter above it, and each time we finish one objective, we just tick it. Right? So you don't say no that we're running quickly through. So here's the objective for the topic. Right? The objective is objectives. We're going to go objectives. There we go. Is to learn and define correctly the terms conflict resolution, mediation, and identify the causes of conflict. So we've finished partly one. So we have one more to finish. So we've talked about conflict resolution, right? What is a conflict? But now we're going to go specifically as to why Bruce Willis was a mediator, as well as the steps, right? So the reason why Bruce Willis in this case was a mediator is because using the conflict resolution, right, he helped two sides come to an understanding. Great. So here are the steps. The steps to solving a conflict. All right. Put it in the center. It's going to make it a larger font. There we go. All right. Conflict resolution and mediation definitions. I'm going to put everything under conflict resolution and mediator. Excellent. So now I can cover up everything there. So now we're going to the steps to solving a conflict. Everybody still with me? Step one.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Step one. Acknowledge the situation. Let me go for a diagram. So in acknowledging the situation, right? First of all, you're declaring that, hey, there's an issue. For Bruce Willis to solve the problem, he first needed to really accept that someone is in the capacity to kill a lot of people, right? And he needs to solve it. Okay? The next step, after acknowledging that there is an issue, is to commit to find a solution. Step 1, commit.
Sir?
Yeah?
Sir, so that would be like listening to the two sides of the story, sir.
Right.
And trying to find
Perfect.
ways to solve it.
It's a good one. So I'll actually write that because I actually like that terminology. So we're gonna say in this one, listening to the two sides of the story. In this case, in the movie, I remember explicitly, Bruce Willis, he got the call that someone was nefariously being a terrorist, right? And then his first instinct was to ask who is in the bank, right? So it's not a case that he just immediately believed that, for example, oh, someone is there. His first instinct was to ask who is in danger. So when you know that side of the story now, he can commit to finding a solution. Right? And committing to finding a solution is the next step, step 2. Right? And the third step, I don't think he did this step, and that's why the movie was such a good one. Expressing yourself calmly. Right? If he didn't go in there head first, the building probably wouldn't have exploded. But expressing yourself clearly and calmly, talk about the steps, what you're gonna do, right, is the third step. So for example, if you believe that person A has a view that you agree with, person B has a view that you disagree with, you aren't going to, I would say, wholeheartedly vote for A. You will try to understand why B would have that point of view by expressing yourself clearly, right? So never in any case do you show an emotive side for one. So you will say, yes, I went through this, so that's why I understand and agree with A. You will try to put yourself in both parties' shoes as a mediator. Right? So the act of solving the steps we said before was a mediator who can help the two sides to reach an understanding. That's a mediator. Let's go back here. All right. Step 4. All right. Step 4 is listening and understanding what each person has to say.
One of them, we will stay in touch with you if anything changes over the course of the evening. We'll be back talking to you in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Thank you so much, my friend.
All right, my bad. So listening and understanding each side. So after you've unbiasedly said, I'm willing to listen to B even though I agree with A, your next step is to hear B's side. Hear everything that he says, understand it, and see why the conflict is in the first place. Right? Because everyone is their own hero. No one ever thinks that, hey, I'm the bad guy in the story. You might think that, but really and truly, you like to see your story end with a happy ending. Right? So that's why your view is misconstrued to always think you're correct. So it's a mediator's job to cut ties with that type of thinking and to equally divide the A's aspect and the B to see who is correct based on their experience. So step 5 now, right? It's gonna put that acknowledgement and forgiveness. Okay. So after you've listened to both stories, right? And it might be a fact where there is no mediator, right? Where you just take on the onus and you say that, well, even though I am B and I disagree with you, I'm willing to hear your side. So this step is very vital for persons that are having anger issues or personal issues with friends, right? I'll actually implore you to actually try to use these steps, right? So it's not necessarily just the mediator that follows these. You can use them in your daily life. So when you listen and understand the person of A, and if you're B, you try to understand it, right? Your next job is to acknowledge, first of all, that you were not 100% correct, right? And then forgive A or forgive yourself really that you are not correct. All right.
Sir,
Uh-huh.
sir, suppose they are listening and the the last one, sir, you said suppose they don't forgive each other, sir.
That means that they weren't truly listening. They were just hearing each other's side. Right? So yes, I gave you a time to talk, but I didn't really want to hear you out. All right? So they were hearing what the others were saying, but if you really was listening, right? If you listen to a teacher speak, you absorb something, correct? Like you learn at least one microscopic thing in that case, right? Can anyone attest? Can anyone say yes? No? You learn at least one thing. So in the case of you, right? So in the case of you listening to someone who has an opposing view, it's literally impossible for you not to learn at least one thing. You might even learn that, hey, this person doesn't even know what they're saying. And in that case, you need to forgive them for that. Right? You need to forgive them. Hey, I'm sorry that you don't know enough information to make a informed opinion. So that's how you would really go about forgiving them, even if they don't want to listen to you. Understand? So you would observe that, hey, they aren't in the position to make an informed opinion. So that's why you acknowledge that, hey, I can't really say I'm 100% correct because this person wasn't given the opportunity to have the same level of thinking with me. It sounds harsh, but it's true. Right. So it sounds harsh, but it's true. Majority of the persons like your parents, right? They aren't given the same opportunities like you are, where you can research easily different topics and so forth. So when you come to your parent and ask them, for example, for something, their initial response is no, because they weren't given the same information that you researched to say you want to do X, Y, and Z. So it's your job to acknowledge that you didn't provide them with that information and forgive them for them saying no. Then your step is to really try to come to a resolution. Understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. And this is very important. I rarely ever see someone in a conversation say, "You know what? I'm sorry that you're not educated." I'd like to see that, but it might be a little bit harsh. But it's true. Sometimes you just don't know enough.
People say that, but they're sarcastic.
Yes, it's not genuine, and it seems like an insult, right? All right, that's true. That's true. Where they just use it as a remark to really insult you, but that's not really the case to accurately forgive someone. So the sixth step is then where people forget, right? So after you call out your parents for not knowing what they're saying, you don't provide anything of substance to educate them, right? So if I forgive you for not knowing, it's my fault then if I just leave the conversation empty by not teaching you what you should have known. Because to resolve a conflict, both parties need to come to one decision. Right? So if you just call me out and say, hey, you have nothing in the barrel, and I don't help you fill up that barrel, right? That is your fault of me still not coming to a conclusion. So you need to work together to find ideas, prevent the problem from happening or even happening again. So, for example, if you want to go to a party, just provide your parents with an understanding now, so that in the future, whenever you want to go to a party, they'll understand where you're coming from. So you're solving problems or conflicts in the future tense. Yeah.
But if you ask them and you explain why, and then still say no because they're strict,
right.
Can just.
I'm so glad someone asked that. Let's answer that question. So, did you go into the conversation expecting that they would say yes?
No, sir.
All right, no. Basically, what I mean, did you want them to say yes initially? Like, you want them to just say, yo, you can. All right, that's the issue. Because you have to go into the conversation to resolve where you come to an understanding alongside them. What I mean by that, it's not a case that you want to go, it's not a case that you should want to go. You're offering it to them for them to make the decision. Right? So You don't come to me and ask me for something that you already made a decision to go to. You come to me giving me a platform for us to voice our opinions, and then we make a decision if you can go. So that's why you feel disappointed, because you already decided you wanted to go. Understand? So that means that you weren't really aiming to resolve anything. You were just aiming for them to accept what you're saying. Because they might say, hey, it's COVID-19. There's no chance of you going out because you might catch the virus. And you would understand that because it's true. If you really were there to really resolve it. I'm not sure if I'm making sense. Everybody understands? All right. I heard a lot of yeses.
Yes, sir.
All right. There we go. There you go. Okay.
Yes,
so those are the steps. Yes. So those are the steps to solve a conflict. And I wish I had written it down, but I recorded it. So you can just go over it after class. All right. There we go. So now we know the steps, but what causes conflict? So in the case of Janae's example, we're going to look at why that was an issue. What's the cause of conflicts? Let's put that there. A moment. There we go. What's the cause of conflicts? Okay. All right. Conflicts, as I said, is a serious disagreement. Right? And here's why people have different conflicts. For one, generation gap. You want to go to a party that your parents have never been to. So how can they really appreciate what you're saying? Well, I don't mean like party on a whole. I mean this generation's version of a party. Right? Generation gap. This essentially is saying, right? Different ages, people from different age groups will have different views. For the male in the call, right? You might know of this legendary debate about Michael Jordan versus LeBron James, right? And the crazy thing about it, wait, let me ask one male in here. Any male in here? Brandon, are you there?
Sir, what did you say, sir?
So I'm asking if there's any male in here because I want to ask him a question about sports quickly. Brandon, are you there?
Sir, I don't really watch sports, so I'm just the wrong person you'd ask for that.
All right, so never mind. Because I was going to ask you who's better, LeBron James or Michael Jordan. And now I would tell you that they got asked the question themselves, and here's what they said.
Oh, LeBron James, because he's a meme.
Thank you.
Because he's a meme. That's the only reason why I'd say is LeBron James.
All right. So what they did to show you that that's not really an answer to have, right? The persons themselves, Michael Jordan and LeBron James, they themselves say that they don't believe in GOAT. There's no such thing as one person who's the greatest because they all come from a different generation. So that's why really there's a conflict to who's the GOAT, right? So when you have different situations, you cannot assume that everyone had gone to the same scenario. Michael Jordan said that because there's Wilt Chamberlain, Larry Bird, those persons were greater than him. How could he be greater if he got inspired by them? So that's one example of why there's a conflict between conversations. The next one is lack of finance. So I'm going to the main one. Lack of finance. Right? Let's quickly give a definition for this. Lack of finance in the sense that families tend to be in problems that commonly revolve around the issue of money. Revolve around the issue of money. All right. Let's give you one more main conflict. Let's see. Problems with authority. All right. and I'm pretty sure at least one person here can attest to this. Teenagers oftentimes just want to make their own choices, right? Parents like to follow that, hey, I went through something, so you shouldn't go through it. But teenagers weren't there when the parents went through it. So that leads to a conflict because they can't understand or appreciate what the choice that is being made is, because they didn't get to experience it firsthand. Right? And because of this, this leads to results of teenagers, let's write this, teenagers want to make their own choices. And what this results in, this conflict, yeah?
There is this conflict with result in the child not telling the parents in terms of anything happening around them or what they're feeling, sir.
Right, exactly. And what function is not being executed there? So if, for example, the child doesn't speak to the parent about their personal issues, what function is being lacking there? Let's go back to the diagram.
Sir.
Remember, it's not social, because we're not talking about friends or so forth. It's not economical. We're talking about money. We're talking about the child not speaking to their parent about key issues. Emotional. Good job, Janae. It's emotional. Right? Because emotional is to provide love and affection for the child and support them in anything that they do. So if the child doesn't speak to the parents, right, and show them that they need support, right, that's a lack of emotional function. So we're going to say this conflict often results in the following. You can just look at this for me quickly. Conflicts in school rules, dress code, and the demand for schoolwork. So I hope I don't have this issue with you guys. The demand for schoolwork. All right? All right? So that's the three main. All right? The next topic. So we're just going through these. Next topic, really. Well, I should give you an activity because I want to see you guys once a week. So let's give you an activity. Okay? You're going to do for me, write your own definition for conflict resolution, and mediation. So here's this activity. I'm gonna go here and say activity. There we go. Write your own definitions for conflict resolution, and mediation. Everybody understands? Oh, and also come up with a situation that describes, and 2, come up, discuss disconnected there. I don't know what happened. Let me just pause the recording. On the teacher, Sine, to share screen again. All right. Anytime, teacher. All right. In the meanwhile, though, because I think you guys are on your page already. All right. Let's go here. So the second activity for this topic, you're going to discuss discuss a situation where sibling rivalry rivalry can be seen. All right, thank you, Sene. There you go, Sene. All right, let me give you the link to the website again.
So I got it.
Okay, good. Okay. All right, and I'm gonna show you how to just get all the activities by one click, so you don't have to keep searching exactly through all the different pages. I'm gonna show you quickly. All right. Okay. So all right. So are you on the website?
Wait, sir.
Yeah. Are you on the link? Cause I don't see on screen share.
You're not seeing it, sir?
Yeah, we're not seeing the notebook.
You're not seeing it, sir? Okay, give me a second.
All right. Let's give a second. So in the meanwhile, let me just keep typing what the activity is. So I'm gonna show you how to just get all the activities in one click, so you don't have to keep searching through the notebook. So when I just load it up, we'll show you. All right, excellent. There we go. So
you're seeing it now?
Yeah, we're seeing it now. Good. So Sunny, you're gonna click on the first symbol on the right. The one that looks like a no, the top right. Yeah, the first one. Yeah, click on it. Right? Filter by activity. Do you see activity there? Click it. There you go. So essentially, it filters all the activities. So if you go on roles and relationship, so click the down arrow on roles and relationship. There you go. Click the down arrow on consequences. There you go. So those are all the activities summarized by just filtering the page, right? So you can unfilter it. So click back activity. There you go. So there's the entire. So that's a quick little trick if you want to search through all the activities. All right. So let's continue. So that's activity 4. All right. We're gonna go to the next topic now. Moving along quickly. All right, next topic. After we talk about conflict and functions of the family, right? We are going to move to. Let me see your screen if it's showing. Okay, good. So you can see it. Okay. So the next topic we're gonna go to is where specifically do you resolve conflict? So we're gonna first resolve conflicts at home. So we're gonna say resolving conflicts. Oh, let me start recording again. My bad. Oh, it is. Resolving conflicts. All right. Hey, who deleted that? There you go.
Sir?
I just saw someone delete. Who's deleting that? Resolving conflicts at home.
Sir?
Yeah?
After you have resolved the conflict at home, you would say resolve it like socially, like outdoors, in terms of in your environment, like where you live, sir?
Right. So we're gonna look at environments and where exactly or how exactly do you resolve it based on the environment. So for example, if you're solving an issue or a conflict at home, it will be different than you solving an issue or conflict at school. Understand? So those are the two things we have left under conflict, and then we're finished. But let me just edit it quickly.
Yes,
right. So we're gonna so is the person gonna delete what I'm writing again? Because I keep seeing someone deleting what I'm writing. Right. Let me write it. Resolving conflicts at home. Please don't delete it. Come on. Resolving conflicts. I will lock the page, as I said. where you don't even get the notes. Come on, guys. All right, perfect. Thank you. Resolving conflicts at home. All right, I'm gonna lock the page. Let's lock the page. All right. So when I lock it, Sunny will stop screen sharing. All right. Let me try one more time. Please don't delete it. All right, let's go. Wait, is it someone deleting it? Why is it? Why does it keep getting deleted? All right, let me try this one last time. And if the person keeps deleting what I'm writing, I'm gonna have to lock the graph. Resolving conflicts at home. And there we go. Perfect. Okay, so resolving conflicts at home is essentially where a peaceful solution forms from the disagreement within the family. Because it's never a case where the conflict results in a family member leaving that said family. So this type of solution, this type of conflict resolution, resolution is a peaceful solution because family members right, are not dismissed from dismissed. We say family members are not ever dismissed. All right. So now you can scroll down. Yeah, you can just scroll down. All right, thank you. All right. Excellent. Right. So when we look at the different methods, we can say that there's strategies as to how to resolve a conflict. Like, for example, the father is upset with you for not doing the dishes. All right. So we're gonna look at the first example. Sorting it out before. So we're gonna say strategies to. First strategy is to sort it out before the family goes to sleep. That's the earliest and the most probable time where a solution gets solved. All right, because the longer you take to solve the problem, the more of an issue it becomes. Right? Because tension builds, right? And that is never a case where it's easier to solve than it was. So we're gonna say that sorting it out before it goes to sleep, right? Calling a family meeting, right? Writing a letter, right? Calling a family meeting, writing a letter, or doing something special as a family, such as a vacation. Because you ever watch those movies, again, I like to use movies as an example, where the family's going through something and then the father says, I need a vacation because he's stressed out. Right? That's a strategy for him to resolve the conflict in the home of him being overworked. All right, good. All right, what I want to do now, essentially, is to give you a case study again. You're gonna tell me how would you resolve it. Here we go. Case study.
Excuse me, sir. Can I send back the link?
Sure, not a problem. Send the link. So what you can do, Janelle, just bookmark the link in Google Chrome or your browser so that you always have it at the top of your browser. Just bookmark it.
Okay, sir.
Alright. So if you're on a browser like Sane's, you can just press the star at the top left. Top right. And it always just save it for you. Okay. But for this one, let's look at a case study. So we're gonna say case study. Oh my bad, I copied the link earlier. My youngest sister always takes my clothes and stationery without asking. If I complain, she goes crying to mother, who says I mustn't upset her. We end up yelling at each other until my parents send us to our rooms. Then the storm passes us, at least till the next time. What strategy was used in this case study? Anyone? In other words, what was the instrument used to solve this case study? Let me give you.
What did you say, sir?
What was the instrument used to solve the problem that the younger sister had? What type of strategy?
They're going to adults.
Right? So in other words, you could say that they called a family meeting or they just met to form a solution. But in the highest case, right, the younger sibling complains. But in other words, they could have solved it better by writing a letter. Right? Because if you complain, how do I really hear your side and how it really affects you? That's emotive response. You want to write a letter to distinctly tell me what exactly is happening, right? And note all the times or events that led up to your frustration, right? Because look at this. When they end up yelling at each other, both of the child gets punished, right? So the person who's really being affected, which is the younger sister, still gets punished because the complaining never resolved the issue. So I would suggest, so we could say the answer to solve this answer is to write a letter to the parents. Everybody agrees?
Yes, sir.
Right. But there are multiple strategies because remember, it's not a case where it's a one size fits all. Because, for example, they could have requested a family meeting, but how effective that would be based on the schedule of the parents, right? So, in other words, writing a letter is always the easiest or the most efficient for the parents involved. Right. So we're gonna go to one more case study quickly. It was case study 1. Let's say case study 2. Right? My sibling and I used to have raging fights. Wait, let me paste it for you. My sibling and I used to have raging fights. Then one day, our parents got us to sit down and write a list of what we really like and appreciate about each other. Now, when my sisters are driving me crazy, it's easy to remember that I actually like them. Okay? So, the B was a really a direction to show you how writing and noting the issue really helps you to appreciate the other family members to come to a peaceful solution, as that is the end result of resolving conflicts at home. So what I'm going to do for your 5th activity, it's very easy. I know I'm giving a lot of homework, but this one is not really a homework. It's just something for you to think on. All right. So when you're looking back in your personal notebook, you can just think back to this activity. All right. And reflect on it. Think about any home conflicts that you could have solved with one of these strategies. So, for example, if you are having an issue at home, so this can be restructured to say, if you are having any issues at home, right? Try to use one or more, or write how one or more of the strategies listed could help. Right? All right, that's it. So then we're going to go to resolving conflicts at school, and then that's it for today. All right, let's go to resolving conflicts at school. So this is activity under there. Resolving conflicts at school. Resolving conflicts at school. Excellent. Okay, what are some conflicts that you might have at school? Well, online school. What are some conflicts that you might have? Anyone?
Sir?
Yeah? Yeah.
Like a disagreement.
Sir, what about bullying, sir?
Right, because cyberbullying could be happening, right? Where, for example, a student messages another student privately and give them disheartening comments. So that's another issue. I think Talia was saying another one.
If during class, a teacher or classmate says something that you don't support.
All right. So that really could affect your learning process. Okay, I see that. So now we're gonna talk about the fact that some of the main conflicts that are caused, all right, we can list them as peer pressure, bullying, as she said, clashes with authority such as teachers not really going to a level of understanding with the students, and a generation gap. All right, so those are the main conflicts. So we said, what are some conflicts? Peer pressure, bullying, extortion, clashing with authority, and generation gaps. Then now, how can we solve these? Right? It can be in the form of these four things. So what are the strategies that can be used? Strategies, right? The strategies is essentially, first of all, meeting with the class teacher or just class meetings on a whole. Class meetings. What if it's an issue with you and a bully? Who would you go to speak to solve the issue? So who would you go to about an issue with another classmate about bullying?
The teacher.
Right, but whose job it is majority of the time to talk about those types of issues? Every school has one or two.
Principal.
I can see where you're coming from, but on a lower scale, the guidance counselor, right? So meet with the guidance counselor if it's an issue about bullying or peer pressure. Meet with guidance counselor if it is an issue with one. So if it is a conflict listed above. Conflict listed above. All right, let's quickly go through one more. So let's say, for example, some schools don't have guidance counselors, which is a very sad situations, right? So you would typically need to employ help from other sources. So what you can do, go in anti-bullying programs if your guidance counselor can't help you. Right? And then finally, this is very rarely used, peer mediator, like your class prefect. Right? And I know it's a case where they're called to do the duty, but majority of the time, because they're students as well, they don't have the resources to really offer that much of an help. Okay. Those were the resolving of conflicts at school. And let's go through a case study together. All right. So we're gonna say that there's a conflict with some students. So we had a problem with older students extorting money from younger ones. Am I right there? So we're gonna say case study. We had a problem with older students extorting money from the younger ones. The class came up with an idea for an anonymous tip-off box. Anyone could post about what was happening. Right? So, what type of strategy did they use? So read through it again, and where was the first signal of the strategy? So this was a problem. So that was a problem. But what was the strategy? The class came up. So what did the class do together? They meet with the guidance counselor? Did they have an anti-bullying program? Or did they just have a class meeting?
They wrote like their opinions, like notes.
Right? In the form of a class meeting, correct? So that's the strategy that they used. So they used the first strategy to solve the case study problem here. They had a class meeting and came up with a solution in the form of an anonymous tip-off box. Do one more before we go. One more. Right. So this is a case where the bully himself has a conflict. So sometimes a personal conflict or internal conflict. And so we're going to see now this bully, B, this bully says, I used to bully other students. I didn't really know how to stop. So I made a deal with a friend that she would step if she saw me starting to get irritable and do my bullying thing. I also went quietly to those who had bullied and apologized. I don't think they trusted me or forgave me straight away, but I felt better about myself. So, was it an external conflict or an internal conflict at its core? Right? So, was the bully conflicting with another student really, or is it a case where the bully was trying to change? So, he was having an internal conflict. Anyone?
Can you repeat, sir?
I'm saying, did the bully have an external conflict in the form of him bullying another student? Or was it an internal conflict with himself where he was trying to change from being a bully to other students?
Internal conflict, sir.
Right, because here said he was trying to find a strategy by asking his friend. He made a deal with his friend, right? That she would step in if he ever started to get irritable, because that's when he would do his bullying thing. So let's look at the strategies quickly. All right. What strategy did he use? So we said, first of all, let's put the answer for the first one. We said that the answer for the first one was
Peer mediator.
class meeting. Right, it's peer mediator, correct. Let me just put the answer for the first one. So when you're studying, you can just look back and see the answers quickly. So there you go, class meeting. So this one is actually a peer mediator, correct, Talia? I'm gonna say peer mediator. All right, excellent. All right, and that is really a summary of really everything. So let's go back through the bullet points just to ensure that we're on the same page. So we started off the class by going through the functions of the family. We listed that there were 5 functions. Well, we summarized really biological, emotional, and so forth. The diagram really summarized everything. You said you went through this already. Second thing, we went through the roles and relationship, right? So we talked about the fact that, for example, the role is just a duty that is given to someone, right? Which can be defined really as a pattern of behavior in the case of siblings and parents, where based on the situation, how they respond to that situation in the family determine their role. So if the father is not, if the father is absent, the role of a child would change based on the pattern of the behavior to really react to that situation, right? So the attributes that can describe the role of the child now that comes along with the role is called the responsibilities, right? And we describe to say what is a responsibility. It is simply the things you are expected to do as a part of your role. For example, as a breadwinner, your parents have to parent and buy clothes. Right? Then I gave you the first activity, which was to identify 2 roles that you play in your family and explain 2 responsibilities that you may have. Right? Then, second activity was to use this diagram, right, and tell me the roles that your other family member have and what do they take on as responsibilities. Right? And the second topic that we covered was traditional roles and responsibilities. We went through the fact that in traditional roles, the male was the breadwinner, right? And the female stayed at home. But because of technology, let's highlight this. I forgot to highlight it. Benefit of technology, women have increased job potentials, which results in shared responsibility in that household. Right? So that's the change. So we could say really that the change, so what caused the change? So we could say what caused the change? Benefit of technology. All right, let me check the screen. All right, thank you. Okay, good. So I'm gonna share screen now because we're just wrapping up now. So thank you, Sene. Really appreciate it. But I'm just gonna share screen now. All right. So you can see everything that I'm summarizing.